Yes, I know you guys are thinking I'm wildly late to the top 15 here, but if you ask me, I think it's the perfect timing because I'm wildly late to YouTube in general. Now, let's just get enough of me rambling here because when I edit this, I don't want it to be 50 years long. So let's just get straight into the video. And also hit that subscribe button if you really like this content, and hit that like if you like our videos. Now, I am kind of already sick of talking about this coaster. Not because I don't like the coaster, but just because, I literally just talked about this coaster. To give you guys a cliff notes, it's a great attraction with a great ride system and a great manufacturer behind it. There's a ton of animatronics scattered everywhere, and the fact that it's just made up of a whole forest is just wild to me. This really goes to show you what happens when Intamin and Universal ball out for a roller coaster, and this is what I've wanted from Universal for so long. I get people are sad Dueling Dragons are gone, but as an attraction base, this is definitely a lot better. I think for a roller coaster standard, Dueling Dragons was a little bit better, but this ride's still awesome. Universal and Intamin killed it with this creation, and honestly, I'm so excited to see what happens with them in the future. Now, I know I'm keeping it short here, but if you really do want an in-depth review of this attraction, then go to my video, Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure vs. Cosmic Rewind. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into our number 14. Mystic Timbers is a simple scenario. It's a ride I had a lot of fun on, but was just genuinely overhyped. Its layout's cool, its theme, it's fine. There's a lot of laterals I like, but there's not that much airtime. Oh, so before going into this ride, I was told it's one of the greatest wooden coasters ever built, and it's just not. No knock in this ride, I still really like its pacing, and I definitely think that's the best feature about it. But just in my opinion, I just don't think it's in even the top 2 of this park. I just think there's too much more to do here, and this ride's just not that great. Once again, not me not liking it, just thinking it was a little overhyped. Also, the shed just sucks. It was just a couple of screens. It just sucks. Why did they overhype this? But let's just move on to the next one. Now, Twisted Cyclone is a roller coaster I'm very indifferent about, as I do think the layout is absolutely goated. I think that it's just too short. Make this ride 50 feet taller and give it a third lap. I think this is low-key one of the top tier RMCs. The drop in the back row is outstanding, and in my opinion, the best element of the ride. The wave turn's awesome. Those 2 pops of ejector right before the turnaround are oh so great. And then there's that crunchy 0G roll. And then you end off with a bunch of bunny hills back into the station. I just think this ride is too short to be considered a top tier RMC. But honestly, it's overlooked by many. I definitely think it's a great attraction and better than Mystic Timbers, in my opinion. But let's get into number 12. The thing about Hulk is it's just a crazy intense roller coaster. From that bowler launch at the beginning to the 0G roll, to the Cobra roll, to the big loop, to the smaller inversions, everything is just a grail moment for me. Compared to Kumba, I've always thought this looks like the better ride, and in my opinion, I don't get why Kumba is that hyped. But hey, another reason to ride it. But also from this attraction's well-themed queue, and honestly some theming on the ride, it's just such a good ride, guys. And I guess it might be a hot take to some to have this over Hagrid's, but I just feel like this is just a better roller coaster. As Hagrid's is a better themed attraction, this is just a better thrilling experience. And yes, this ride does lose its steam after the mid-course, but it doesn't matter because the first half was already so bonkers. But anyways, my number 11 is Orion, as well as Mystic Timbers in the same park, is pretty overrated for me. I like the drop, and there's a couple elements I like, including that last little hill into the brakes. The first drop's fun, you get a good sense of speed, but not that much of low-to-the-ground elements. The wave turn's a pretty solid element, and I do love that speed hill. There's a lot this ride does right and a lot this ride does wrong. I think it needs to be a little bit taller, because honestly at the moment, the drop does not feel that big. I've always hated how the trains on these new gen B&Ms are always smaller. They really ruin the drop. But my final and most important complaint is this ride is wildly short. It feels like drop, a couple elements, one good last airtime moment, and then you're into the brakes. Both the gigas I've been on have been wildly overrated in my eyes. I had heard mixed things about this ride going in, but I really trusted Airtime Thrills, who said it was a top 30 coaster or something. And for me, it's just not what he said it was. But anyways, let's get into our number 10. Millennium Force is another interesting giga, because I really do have some interesting mixed opinions on this attraction. In one ear, I heard people saying that it wasn't that great, and in one ear, I had my dad saying this is the best roller coaster in the world. But sorry, Dad, this ride is just nothing like you said it was. It is, in fact, the Overbank master. Alright, stop being negative, I'm gonna tell you what I like about the ride. Lift hill, good. First drop, good. Overbank, bad. Low to ground turn, bad. First airtime hill, forceless. Bunch of low to the ground turns, which are fine. More overbanks. A smaller airtime hill, which is also pretty fun. And then the speed hill. And yes, the speed hill is actually really fun. I like the sense of speed you get on this ride. You get a little more of it than you would on Orion. But I would definitely say Orion's airtime is better. But I think the drop in the setting and the restraints just put it over for me. I love B&M clamshells, but these restraints are just so good. There's a lot to like about this ride, there's also a lot to dislike about this ride. So to even it out, it lands on the 10 on my list. So let's get into number 9. Goliath is just such a good ride. From the insane floater air to the insane almost ejector-like air at the end of the ride. As we just talked about 2 overrated coasters, I would honestly argue this is one of the most underrated. As this ride is a mini hyper, and I do wish it was taller, it really does use its height well. Big airtime hills going out of the park to the small airtime hills going back in. Also mixing in a good moment of positive G's with that downward helix. This ride is really so great and really needs the credit it deserves. Those hills going back into the park are absolutely bonkers, and I'm telling you, if you get the airtime room on your lap bar, you'll be out of your seat more times than you're in it. The reason it's below my other hypers is just because it's a little too short and not as fast as the others. But even with all that said, I think this is probably my most favorite roller coaster, even though Expedition Everest is close on its tail. And in my opinion, this is definitely the crown jewel of Six Flags Over Georgia. And this ride always creates a perfect entrance experience as you drive under it to get to the parking lot. This ride is just so good and there's not that much words to describe it. Also, there's another hill I want to point out on this ride. It's after this turnaround that there's that small little bunny hop that gives insane ejector airtime. Anyways, let's get into number 8. Diamondback's honestly just a really great ride. That's like pretty much all I can say about it. Okay, but being for real, this is obviously one of my favorite B&M hypers. I just love this layout. The drop on this ride in the back row is absolutely insane, and these hills are just so powerful. As there's another hyper I prefer over it, I do respect people that say this is their favorite. And this ride was easily my favorite in all of Kings Island. And yes, I haven't really said anything negative about this attraction, but it's just such a good ride that there's not that much negatives. But yes, to ruin the happy party here, there are some nitpicks I would have with this ride. A, I don't love the fact that this ride has trims. I think they hurt some of the airtime you would have got one of the hills, and honestly the mid-course hits a lot harder than it should. You do really seem to lose momentum as you get to the end of this attraction, but at least the drop off the mid-course is awesome, and the last 2 bunny hops provide some solid floater. This is honestly just a beast of a hyper, and yes, I'm sad I can't put it above this spot, but like the rest of this list is just so good. But anyways, let's get into our number 7. In one of my roller coaster battles, I recently debated Nitro versus Diamondback, and if you watched that video, you know which one came out on top. That was actually kind of a stupid line, because even watching this video, you know which one wins. Alright, anyways, let me just tell you the cliff notes. This ride significantly feels bigger than Diamondback. Although I would never call Diamondback a short hyper coaster, it definitely feels smaller than Nitro is. I remember Nitro being my first big coaster, so yeah, I do have a little bit of bias from that, but I still really like this ride, and I would like it regardless. And yes, if it came out to first halves, I'd probably give Diamondback as the best B&M hyper in the world. But Nitro just has that great finale, and just after the turnaround, everything on Nitro is better. You get that strong floater airtime hill, and then you head up into the helix, which is always a gray out moment for me. Then after that incredibly intense helix, you drop off the mid-course. And in the back row, this drop off the mid-course is actually wild. And then there's these 4 small bunny hills, and you're out of your seat for each one. And if you're in the back, the last one, which is notably bigger than the rest, is actually almost an ejector moment, and it actually kind of still scares me. But yeah, this is honestly the perfect hyper coaster, and it doesn't get the respect it deserves. Anyways, let's get into our top 6, and this is where the coasters get really good. Maverick is an incredible ride that I know a lot of people are really high on, but it wasn't my personal favorite. I'm definitely one of those people that prefers airtime over intensity, and this ride only has 2 really solid moments of airtime. Those 2 moments being this camelback you see right here, that gives pretty much standing airtime. But in my opinion, this ride is all about the transitions, all the fast-paced low-to-the-ground churns, and then those absolutely nasty stangle dives towards the end of the ride. As it lied just outside of my big 2 at Cedar Point, I can definitely see those people that really like this ride. It's just not my personal favorite. And despite the drop being only a measly 105 feet, it still delivers some of the most outstanding airtime on this whole ride. This and Millennium Force are attractions I would definitely recommend to ride at night. Despite them not fully being my favorites, they're still absolutely awesome night rides. Millie for the secluded setting, and Maverick for that dark tunnel launch, which is really something you have to experience for yourself. For my one small nitpick for this attraction is I would definitely say that those lap bars on this ride are actually terrible. I didn't really have problems with the vest. Instead, I had problems with the lap bar. The lap bar was actually digging to my thigh the whole ride, and it's not like I have big thighs or anything. And without further ado, let's get into our top 5. Air Force One is a really great ride. In my opinion, one of the few coasters on this list that I actually preferred up front. The reason for this is because of the shorter trains. The thing about this ride is I feel like every element hits better up front. For example, the Raven Trust dive up front, you get a good bit of ejector before diving down. Also, the stall that you're seeing right now on this ride is actually fantastic. Also, the Outer Bank, which we're seeing right now, is insane. This ride is packed to the brim with actually insane airtime moments, including this double up and the ultimate finale. The arcade roll feels like a mini Mosasaurus roll, and this churn is honestly a good grayout moment. I definitely think this ride lived up to the hype, and in my opinion looks a lot better than Wildcat's Revenge. My complaints for this ride is that the finale I think is a little too much, and it's just brutal on my thighs. But either which way, this attraction is awesome. Anyways, let's move on to number 4. Velocicoaster is such a good ride. As yes, I know I'm saying this to a lot of them, I just really can't help it. This is one of those rides I really wanted to move higher, but I just couldn't. The first half of this ride, although not my favorite, is still really awesome, with one of the moments of airtime through the rock and the dive loop actually being really forceful. The first launch will not be my favorite, it's still pretty good for an LSM launch. And the theming's pretty awesome in the first half too. But really, do you ride this ride for the first half or for the second half? And I think we all know the answer. After diving through the rock one last time, you churn into that second launch and hit the jets. The second launch is actually awesome. Then you rise up into the top hat, which was a bit overrated for me. I don't think it's ejector airtime. I think it's pretty solid floater. Not to be hating on this ride, but you also go into another pretty overrated element. This stall is just kind of a little too fast. Then you hit a pretty solid wave churn here. And just these moments alone really make this ride such a top tier ride. The Outer Bank provides some nice ejector, and then you churn into the best element on this ride, the Mosasaurus roll. And yes, the Mosasaurus roll is awesome and deserves all the hype. Like I said, I want to put this higher, but Magnum's just too good. Yes, I know. I put this over Velocicoaster and Maverick. And please don't come to the comments with pitchforks for me. I just genuinely really like this ride. I did mean to do like a sort of controversial opinions video on it, but like I just didn't. Because like, I don't actually know. Why didn't I do that video? I guess I'm kind of just lazy. But people genuinely don't talk about this ride. They always say, oh, it's a boring first half with a good finale. Like, this ride is so much more than that. I was getting ejected in the first half to the point where I was crying out for my mom. Like, the airtime is just that intense. And yes, the finale that everyone talks about is the greatest finale of all time. The ejector on it is just so strong. It's better than Steel Vengeance's finale, which I know might piss a lot of people off, but it's genuinely my favorite finale I've ever been on. This ride feels like a mine train on steroids, and I guess that's kind of what they were going for, but like, oh my gosh, I can't get enough of this ride. I also had like genuinely no expectations for this ride, and I remember getting off of it and saying, why was that better than Millennium Force? I don't know, this ride is just awesome to me, and I don't get why people always hate on it. Like, just look at the airtime hills you're watching. Like, doesn't that just look like insane? But yes, as it pains me to say, it isn't my favorite at Cedar Point, and that is... As yes, it took me 3 rides on Steel Vengeance to eventually admit that it was better than Magnum. This ride is definitely the king of Cedar Point. And honestly, you know what's weird about this ride for me? I hear a lot of people nowadays saying that it's overrated. Like, what? I get overhyped, but overrated? Like, this ride is so good. I don't get why people are saying it's mid now. I think it's just because people like to hate on popular things, but still, like, come on, there's no way you don't like this ride. The drop, the top hat, and the Outer Bank are also my favorite elements in coasters in general. The versions are mental, the step-ups, the step-downs, the double up, the drop off the mid-course, like everything on this ride is a good element. The mid-course gives you a chance to breathe, but then you go into that second half, which is arguably better. And yes, I did say that Magnum is my favorite ending at all of Cedar Point, but like, this is still a damn good one. With like 5 small bunny hills all coming at the end of the ride. Also, some of the elements on this ride look like they wouldn't hit, and then all of a sudden you're just out of your seat for a solid 3 seconds. Yes, I definitely do believe this has the most airtime, even though that's like kind of hard to measure, but it definitely feels like it from my experiences. Strongest airtime, no, but most, yes. And did I ever say that this ride lasts like forever? You're just going through the structure, 3 laps, it just keeps going. And it's smooth as glass. I have no complaints, but there is one roller coaster that edges it out, and it is Guys, we did it. We are finally at the end of the video, and I have to say, I'm grateful for it. And yes, I finally get to talk about my favorite roller coaster of all time. That is El Toro at Six Flags Great Adventure. I'm pretty much about to say what everybody else has said, so you might already know what I'm about to say. You start off the ride with the best first drop on any roller coaster, and then rise up into the 2 best airtime moments on any roller coaster. Like, those camelbacks are just mental. And then you hit the Rolling Thunder Hill, and like, oh my gosh, that does not feel safe. And I like how it goes up from being in the clouds the whole ride to getting dragged down low for the twister section at the end of the ride. It's a great way to spice things up from the airtime-centric experience that you get at the beginning. And yes, this is my favorite coaster, even though that gap between Steel Vengeance, Magnum, and this is surprisingly slim. And yes, that is the conclusion of our video, because like I don't want to edit a new ending. So hit the like if you like the video, and sub if you like this content. Anyways, bye!